Good evening, Avram.
Hey,
How are you?
all right. I'm just having some 3D printer frustration right now, as usual, but
Sure.
I will figure it out another time. So I have a I have an easy one. I want to talk about the Raspberry Pi 5 that just came out.
I know you do.
Yes,
It's
yes.
so it's
It's
so easy. I
pretty.
didn't need you to say
Yeah, yeah. It's very
it.
predictable. Very, very predictable. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good topic.
Yeah. One day I'll talk about my frustrating 3D printer, but not be today.
Okay. Uh, well, we have gotten far enough into the hard drive for the show that it's time to start deleting January. All right. Got enough for the show. Okay. Did you see the rest?
Let me see. No, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Was okay. Yeah, Amazon's FTC. I know. Video game industry. Panos. Yes, I know. I know all about this.
Hmm. Just had a command prompt open up on the chat computer.
Oh, I had my computer crash in a very weird way like half an hour ago,
Oh
so I
yeah.
hope it doesn't do it again while we're on. It like all of a sudden the screen went dark and it wouldn't respond to input from my devices. But
Hmm.
then and I had to turn it off and like just force power it off and on again. And there's something in the Windows log about a Windows event log about the device description for event ID 0 from source NVLDDMKM cannot be found. Either the component that raises the event is not installed or the installation is corrupted. And it looks like uh, it says device video 3. So I don't know what that is about.
Hmm.
It sounds like it could be uh, it sounds like it could be an NVIDIA driver thing, although why it would suddenly happen now is beyond me. So
There's never any telling with drivers. They're the worst.
yeah, so I don't know, something weird going on. I don't know. Anyway, I hopefully that doesn't happen again. I wasn't doing anything particular when it happened. I just had videos paused on YouTube trying to figure out 3D printing problem,
Sure.
but with a nozzle. So good times.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right. I think I've got everything in place. Good news. We've got new RAM in the computer. Uh, so back up to the right amount. Not that there's anything wrong with the old RAM, but, a single stick of 16 isn't going to get the job done. So, anyway. All right. I think I'm ready. If you're ready.
Yep, I'm ready.
All right. Hit record. Hit start. Hit start. This week, Panos Panay leaves Microsoft for Amazon. SAG-AFTRA strikes against games. Amazon is sued by the FTC. And the WGA strike is over. It's Sunday, October 1st, 2023, and this is episode 656 of F5 Live, refreshing technology, a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, or Snapchat through our live streaming services, livestream.com, Twitch, our new friends on Kick, or YouTube, where you can join the community and get ad-free episodes of F5 Live and Piltch Point, or on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. The first is Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio, give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you're not able to join us live, that's okay as well. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows. And of course, you'll find all the ways to watch, listen, and follow along. All right, it's good to be back, Avram. How have you been the last couple weeks?
All right, not bad. Not too bad. People in my family have been a little sick, but otherwise, I guess okay. So much stress, so much. Well, just a lot going on, a lot to do. Big product stuff, big work stuff.
Yeah,
potty training, all kinds of fun stuff. For
definitely
me,
an interesting mix of things.
Yes. So, yeah, it's fine. I'm trying to figure out whether I'm just not strong enough or what. But I've been trying for like all evening to unscrew the nozzle from the end of this 3D print head here. It's supposed to come out. It came like this, and it's like it came from AliExpress like this, and well, doesn't work.
Interesting.
It's like smelted in there or something. I don't know. So
interesting.
Beats me. Yeah.
Computers and electronics in general are always a pain, aren't they?
Yep. Yeah.
Nothing we do seems to slow it down at all.
Maybe you have to heat it first. Maybe that's it. Okay, but how am I supposed to heat it if it's not in the printer? I guess it has to go in the printer. All right. Well,
hopefully that'll get it there.
Yeah. So, how about you?
Dealing with a lot of interesting new stuff. I've got sitting to my left, just off screen, I've got a stack of products that we've got to do unboxings and product reviews for. I've got a new scale from more than a scale. It's the body comp device from Withings. Withings? I think they told me it was Withings at CES. And then I got a couple of Govee products around here. Got a little bit of everything going on. So lots of content to create.
Awesome.
Plus, of course, in the meantime, I am building new graphics, animations, and some upgrades to the studio here. So, never a dull moment.
Doesn't seem like.
It's just been, I enjoy getting into stuff. And then, of course, we're like basically at that 100-day mark from CES. So.
No, not. I hope it's more.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, okay. Well, I am expecting to. I'm thinking that it's likely I will be there in person this year. So let's. I hope so.
I hope so too.
Obviously, since 2020. Yeah, I really hope so. It looks like the company is going to is planning to send me. So, barring something coming up,
Sure.
I would expect to go. So, and
Excellent.
I would really like that. So I hope it happens.
Me too. It's just not the same without you.
Uh, I know. I look forward to seeing you and everybody else who comes. So I really hope I get to go this year or
Me
next year,
too.
this coming one.
Yeah. For those who don't know, CES is where Avram and I met originally, in the food court at the Venetian, I think.
That's
That's
where I
where
hang out and meet all the people. No, I'm kidding.
we.
Um,
And it was
yeah,
it was
I well,
all it was all over a joke about you not having a MacBook.
yes, right, because we bonded over our dislike of Mac. It seems so quaint now. There's so many other things to dislike now. You know, um, that I could like, in the scheme of things, other products that you know far, I dislike far more now.
Sure, sure.
But hey, it's always appreciated.
And of course,
So yeah,
now I've got 4 of them up in the office, so you know.
uh, every time my wife is still like morally opposed to Mac, right? Like she holds the hard. I mean, I'll give her that she holds the hard line, right? Like one day I had to like a couple of times I had to bring like an iPad home from work, not my own. Like we
Sure.
don't own one, and for testing an app or something that was iOS only. And she's like, "What are you doing bringing that thing into this house?" You know, and 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 when I said, "Well, it might pay for me to own one just for circumstances like this," we don't have that in this house. Uh, so
So,
so
okay.
so we don't. I
That's
mean,
funny.
granted, we have company people come and bring their iPhones and iPads, and nobody complains. But I guess
Sure.
it's just if we owned one, right? So
So
anyway,
so
yeah.
John, who long timers might remember, John had a theory that there were nanobots coming out of the air conditioners in the Apple stores, and that's how they kept customers coming back.
Look. To be fair, the quality of the Apple products is pretty good. Like it, I don't like their closed ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
but um, other ecosystems have also gotten more and more closed. So
True.
it's not, it's not they're not alone. I mean, you can still sideload on Android, which is nice, and you can still, um, sideload go outside the Microsoft Store on Windows, but
Mm-hmm.
they're all trying to be proprietary in one way or the other. So, um,
And in fairness,
yeah,
on Mac OS you can too.
yes, Mac OS you can. It's just not, um, yeah. Although now they really incentivize you because obviously things have to be compatible with their chip. But I mean, the quality is good.
Yeah,
I don't like the UI on Mac OS. I don't
me
like
too.
the touchpads and keyboards on the MacBooks. I don't like any of that stuff. But I think that's kind of a do you like vanilla or chocolate ice cream kind of
Yeah.
question? Like, I don't like it, but I can respect other people for liking it.
And when it comes to the hardware, it's the difference between liking HP and Lenovo, right? Because the keyboards, the
Yeah,
trackpads, the webcams, only one company's ever had a nostril webcam, right?
right,
We can have the
right. I
same
mean, everybody.
conversations
I mean,
about the Windows
yeah,
ecosystem.
yes, we can. I mean, there's a lot more obviously choices there,
Right.
which is what I like about it. There's so many
Yeah.
choices. Anyone can make a Windows PC,
Mm-hmm.
whereas only one company can make a Mac.
today.
But you know, well, you think it's gonna open
No,
up?
no, there were the Mac clones for a very short
Yes, I
while
remember
while
like in
Jobs was gone.
1988 or something, right?
It was while
Yeah.
Jobs was
Well,
gone.
yes, right, right. But that was a short time.
Yeah,
Whereas I'm sure IBM is someone at IBM, or was it who was at IBM, was kicking themselves that they allowed the I don't know how this happened. They allowed the ecosystem for x86 and MS DOS to grow,
yeah,
but it's been an overall success for the
yeah,
ecosystem.
for sure.
Um,
I mean,
anyway,
I've
it's a
got
long story.
I got 4 MacBooks up in the office. I got there's 2 Surfaces here, a couple of Dells, an HP. I have my issues with all
Yep.
of them.
Yes. I'll just leave this conversation with this. Uh, Yesterday or the day before, I was spending a lot of time with my son trying to do some stuff in Linux, which I actually will get to a little bit in my segment. Uh, and I was talking to him about we were looking at instructions, and there were instructions for different flavors of Linux, like Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, um,
Red Hat.
a few. Well, there weren't instructions for that, but that is an example, right? That we were looking at CentOS, whatever, like all these ones.
Sure.
And he said, like, why are there so many versions of Linux? And my answer to him was like, because anyone can make it, I guess. But I didn't have like a good answer about why people would want one over the other. So I don't know. He said he thought it was only. He said he thought that Linux was only used on Raspberry Pi. I had to
Fair
correct
enough.
him that it's actually used on more computers than Windows if you count servers.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, in the server world, it definitely has a a bit of a stranglehold.
Yeah.
Well, you've given me some ideas for a series that we've been pitching around here just while we've been talking. So that's exciting. I appreciate that. I know it wasn't your intention, but it's a bonus. Anyway, we have got a lot of topics to get to tonight. A reminder, if you are on Facebook or Twitter/X right now, you're about to go dark. It's time to join us over at the website f5live.tv/join us, or of course you can go to YouTube, Twitch, or Kick. We will see you over there, and hopefully you will chat with us in the chat. This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, tablet, Xbox, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. Remember, current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% off almost everything. To browse the products and learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. Speaking of Microsoft, the Microsoft ecosystem has had some interesting things happen in it over the last couple of weeks, and we've had some gap time, so let's talk about some of the stuff that's happened. First, the man known to Microsoft enthusiasts simply as Panos has left the company just days before the company's big Surface and AI event, which was conspicuous, not just because he had tweeted a couple of weeks earlier about his excitement about being at the event, but because a part of the event was going to be around new Surface devices, and he is the godfather of Surface. Surface was his baby. So him not being there for the event was surprising. And leaving just before it was odd. Then, at the event itself, Microsoft made the announcement that the purpose of Surface was going to be changing. Instead of being the experimental, crazy town that Surface had always been, trying weird things like the Surface Book with its, watch hinge and all kinds of, the Surface Duo and the Neo that never actually made it to market, but they messed around with, and headphones and earbuds, and that wasn't going to be the case anymore. There were a couple of products that they were going to be focused on: productivity, normal things, laptop, tablet, Surface Laptop Studio. That was going to be the focus. The idea of Panos not being there started to come into view a little bit, right? That was his artistic expression, was the oddities that were the Surface line of product. And then there were rumors. Where was he going? Was he just done with design? Or was there another company where his services could be useful? It was definitely the second one. The rumor had been around basically since he announced that he was leaving Microsoft, that he had been courted by Amazon. And this week, that was confirmed both by him and by Amazon. He will be joining as the... I can't remember if he's the executive director or EVP, or he is he is the head of Amazon's devices and services. So you may remember that a couple months back, there were some huge layoffs at Amazon. It hit the devices and services division the hardest. Everybody except iRobot inside of their robotics division, gone. About half of the Alexa team, actually I think it was like 60% of the Alexa team, gone. The devices team got cut severely too. And there were rumors, there were rumblings that maybe Amazon was giving up. No, seems like not. Seems like they've changed their mind now that they've got somebody who's willing to be as weird with hardware as they are. Remember, this is the company that put Alexa in a wall clock. She's responding to me from the other room. She heard her name.
Yeah, you should say. There should be like, you know what it should be? There should be, what do you call it? An escape string or something for talking?
Yeah. Some sort of an escape character for her name.
Escape character.
On GNC Week in Review, we usually refer to her as Mrs. A.
Yeah, that's a good point. But if she's Mrs. A, who is she married to?
I've always assumed Cortana.
Okay.
There was that weird relationship between the two, right?
Yeah, there was. It was a little distant for a couple, but who knows? Some couples.
But I mean, Amazon is known for weird products in their hardware, their robotics. I think Panos is a perfect fit. If Amazon wants to stay in that weird realm and Microsoft doesn't, I think this is a perfect fit for him.
Well, I mean, it is. Yeah, I mean, look, he is going to. I mean, he has the vision to probably have him do something a lot more serious.
Yeah.
I don't know, or like Alexa is kind of fallen off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're seeing the concept, so maybe they see this opportunity like, hey, we could get out of the business, or we could reinvigorate by bringing in someone who's a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And so they brought in someone who's a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I understand, it sounds like he was frustrated that Microsoft really wasn't investing in its hardware. I mean, the Surface announcements weren't that exciting.
Yeah. If you look at that 4-week window, the story that it tells me is he was told last minute that the division was changing. And he's like, I just had a call with Amazon. I'm gonna go over there. That's how it felt to me. Like, that's the story that I heard.
Or maybe it was going on for, maybe his conversation with them was going on for a while, because
Could be.
it's a little, I mean, if you're Amazon, you have to think they're not just going to hire him because he's available. They're going to hire him because they're planning to do something in the business.
Right. But I mean, they may have been having talks. Panos was on the fence. Then Microsoft says, "Oh yeah, Duo's gone. Neo's never going to see the light of day. We're getting rid of headphones. We're getting rid of earbuds. We're just going to focus on the core 4." And he's like, "I don't want to do that."
I mean, I mean, wasn't he also in charge of Windows though? Was he not excited about that? I mean, I'm not excited about it, but
he was definitely in charge of Windows. And Windows 11 was one of his big things. It didn't go over the way that he had hoped. Because, the UI for Windows 11, we can all pretend that it's Windows 11, but it was Windows 10X. It's 100%, Sun Valley was the Windows 10X interface for the Surface Neo that eventually made its way over to the public. But, that was the Surface Neo, the Surface Duo. Those were his two big things. The Duo did not catch on. I've got one of those around here. That never caught on. The Neo never saw the light of day, mostly because of COVID getting weird in the way. But yeah, he did have a couple of kicks in the stomach there.
Yeah. So I could see that, particularly if he wants to pursue something with hardware, wants to do something different and innovate. He's also probably reached that time in his career where he's got, I'm sure he's got a lot of shares. I'm sure he's got, money. So I'm sure his decision is based on like, what's interesting for me? What,
Right.
what's a challenge? What do I get to do something? And do the kind of thing I like to do. And so, yeah, I think this is a good, good move for him.
Yeah. Good
Not
move for him.
necessarily a good move for Microsoft.
Yeah. Good move for him. Good move for Amazon. I think.
Yes, a great move for Amazon.
I think this division that has been mistreated, let's say, because I read a whole thing. They had a goal and a vision for what Mrs. A was going to be. And it hasn't become that. People don't use it for what they had hoped. But people use it for a lot of things. And I think they just haven't been able to wrap their heads around what the service has become. And, I think Panos, if I remember correctly, was involved with the later days of Cortana. So, I mean, he has experience in that space as well. And, Cortana was able to do a lot of interesting stuff that this one could do if they wanted it to. So, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff. We might see innovation, actual development into that ecosystem now, which I think would be a pleasant change of pace.
I mean, sure. On the other hand, I don't really want more from Amazon personally, but they as a company probably want to get more hooks into you everyone as a consumer. So, I feel like they have enough hooks into me already. And I remember do you remember? I'm sure you remember when they almost came out they did come out with a Fire phone, right?
Yes.
And
nobody
bought that thing. Nobody bought that. And I was really disturbed by the concept of it because, let's see if this makes me brighter. I was really disturbed by the concept of it because it was okay. I'm trying to put
I
more light on my face because
I
right now I
legit
look like
thought
so dark.
I legit thought you were reaching for a fire phone. I had my fingers crossed.
That would be super cool, Aaron. Now you can either see my reflective head or a shadow over my face. I don't know which is better. So so anyway, the the no, I don't have a fire phone here. That would be a lovely piece of history. But I
Yeah.
appreciate that they gave up on it rather
Mm-hmm.
than trying to create a new fire phone and make it thinner and lighter and whatever. Because they could do that. They could
Yeah.
absolutely do that, or could have done that.
They
Um,
could have they could have
but it
Surface
was,
Duo 2.
yeah. The but I think the thing is, it I think it's nice. I don't know. It's good when a company realizes like, hey, this is where the market wants me and this is where the market doesn't want me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or is not a good place for me. So like being in your phone was not a good, I mean, good for them, not
Yeah.
good for the consumer because you have something that's essentially, primarily a store and you're having it like your phone is, I don't know. I like to think that my phone is more than just a front end interface to buying stuff on Amazon,
Sure.
right? Um,
For
so
for most of us it
so that
is. For one of our team it isn't. It's exactly that.
right, so it just I don't know. I can't for that reason I can't take like their like I feel like their electronics are kind of designed to like, oh hey, really what we'd really like you to do with this is buy something on Amazon. Um,
And that's exactly what they thought that their smart speakers, I'll just call it that, uh, that's what people were going to use it for. And they absolutely do not. And it was a huge
because it's
shock to
not.
them.
Well, I think that one of the larger truths here that I won't belabor the point anymore about is that maybe people don't want to have a conversation with everything that they own. Maybe they
Mm-hmm.
don't want to have maybe a conversation UI, whether it's a voice conversation UI or a text conversation UI, is not the ideal UI for every
Mm-hmm.
scenario. Like it's cute and people thought, wow, I can talk to this person, blah blah blah. And at a certain point it's very like, I don't know, I guess there are probably people who feel like they're, I don't know, like they're wealthy, they have servants or something because like, look, I
Sure.
can order this thing around and tell it what to do, like if I had a butler. But the reality is sometimes it's just easier to flip the light switch than to ask something than to repeatedly ask something to flip the light switch,
Sure.
right? Um, so sometimes it's just easier to go onto an interface and look for what you want and buy it than to have a conversation with an, like, you know and I think one of the problems is a lot of the vendors think that, oh, if we just made the speech recognition better, we made the it more lifelike, more human-like, people would use it, and I'm not convinced of that. Like I mean, like for example, now I don't know. There are people who are wealthy, and maybe some of them are the ones making these decisions. Like, well, not Bill Gates now because he's not working, but if you're Bill Gates, you probably don't go grocery shopping ever. You probably don't even go
Sure.
grocery shopping online. You're probably like, hey, personal chef, this is what I like to eat,
Yeah.
um, and you have people for that. But the rest of us, we're a little bit more DIY, I think, and it's not necessarily like gratifying to be like, oh yeah, I have to describe to this assistant exactly what I want. It's better to see a menu of choices and be like, oh, this is what I want.
Sure.
Um, so I'm not sure that, like I think this is the same thing that we're seeing with ChatGPT, right? There was so much interest in it and the interest died down a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because like the chat interface is
Yeah.
not necessarily the interface that people want. It's just that they want to push it on everyone, and it is a shiny object. So is Panos going to make a more a shinier object? I mean, they could certainly have it Amazon elect Lady A uh, do more, be more lifelike, uh, empower it with, build something like a GPT-4 into it. I'm sure
Right.
that's a, no brainer to do. But is that, I mean, some people will like that.
Hmm.
Is that going to necessarily change people's behavior to buy things? I'm not so sure about that.
Right. Or maybe they figure out that there's a marketplace, there's a market for them not in that, right? And that they can lean in hard to what people are actually using it for and enjoy that and figure out how that becomes their thing. Who
Yeah.
knows? It will not be a quick turnaround. Hardware and services, devices and services do not pivot quickly. They're a little bit more like a cruise ship. They need some time to to pivot. So we will see over time what comes of Panos's time over at Amazon. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices. You can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee right now by going to piltchpoint.live/PureVPN. Well, we were just talking about devices a moment ago and making a newer newer device, and we have a new device to talk about.
Yes. So this is the most anticipated computing device in the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years at least that I am holding in my hand. And it is the latest version of one of the world's and history's most popular computers. It is the Raspberry Pi 5, just announced on
Ooh.
Thursday. Just announced on Thursday. This is going to be coming out on October 23rd. There are going to be two versions initially, a 4 gigabyte and an 8 gigabyte model. And the 4 gigabyte model will be $60, which is only $5 more than the Raspberry Pi 4 gigabyte. And the 8 gigabyte will be, I think, $80, which will be for which is $5 more than the 8 gigabyte Raspberry Pi 4. So, what do you get for all of that? What's better about it? Well, um, let me take you to, so that you may have noticed that it has a fan on it. It doesn't come with that, although there's an official one, and you really do want to use it. So, and it's hard to take off because it has like thermal pads. So I'm not going to take it off to show you. I'm going to show you a picture of the board layout because I think that will say a lot. So, um, so if we look here at this really nice high-res picture that I got from Raspberry Pi. I took pictures of my own, but they're not as nice. Um, we see a few things. First of all, this is the new SoC, the new Broadcom system on a chip that they use. That's basically the CPU and GPU. Um, the old one was a Cortex. They were ARM. They use ARM, of course. Cortex A72 quad core running at 1.8 gigahertz. This is a A76. Not really sure. 76 is better than 72, but I'm not sure like what the total improvement there is. and it is also quad core, but it is now 2.4 gigahertz, and you can overclock. I mean, you could overclock it before, but now you can overclock it to about 3 gigahertz. The GPU is now a Video Core 7 GPU that stocks at stock speed is 800 megahertz versus 500 on the prior model. And we overclocked that to 1100, but we didn't see a lot of improvements in the graphics by doing that. Actually, we didn't see pretty much any improvements in the graphics by doing that. But it is noticeably faster for a lot of tasks, but that's not all. On top of it being faster for the processor, interestingly, you'll see this little chip over here. I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing, and where that has a little Raspberry Pi logo on it. It is in the upper right corner. It is called the RP1, and it is an I/O chip designed by Raspberry Pi for the South Bridge. It controls the I/O for the USB 3, the dual USB 3 ports, and the USB 2 ports, and the Ethernet port. And what that allows is it allows these to have more throughput. So the USB port is actually about, even though it's the same USB 3, which is technically 5 gigabits, read and write speeds were, sequential reads and writes were about double when I compared it to Raspberry Pi 4 using the same external USB SSD. It also, Ethernet, though, was about the same because it's a gigabit Ethernet port, and I was getting about gigabit. Also, it has 802.11ac, so Wi-Fi 5, like its predecessor, but the Wi-Fi under good conditions is also about double or maybe more than double the speed of the Raspberry Pi 4, simply because the Wi-Fi card has a faster interconnect to the CPU. Although I did see some interference or poor reception when I was 25 feet away from the router in my office here, where there's other electronics and stuff like that. The Raspberry Pi 4 got more bars on my network when far away. I'm not sure why. Someone else I know, Jeff Geerling, who writes about this stuff, tested 25 feet away and had no problems. So could just be interference here. You'll notice that there's with Raspberry Pi, you used to have a fan. If you want, it didn't, it doesn't come with a fan, but in the prior models, you could run them pretty well without any cooling at all. On this, you can run it, but if you start to do anything more than idle, it will start to go up to about 80 degrees Celsius, which is the throttle point. So you'll want the fan, which is specific, and you can't use any of the existing third-party fans because they don't fit this layout. So right now the only one that exists is the first-party fan, which is going to be about $6. And if you're buying one of these, buy the fan. It has these two mounting holes here on the kind of upper right and lower left to pop the fan and heatsink on, and it has a dedicated 4-pin header here for the fan. Third-party fans, there maybe a third-party fan will come out that uses this header, but all the existing ones use the GPIO. Now, the 40-pin GPIO is the same 40 pins, but there's some new functionality has been added for kind of when for how it negotiates kind of power when it's at a low power state, which I'll get into why you would care about that in a minute. That all new fans would need to take advantage of that. I mean, new hats using the GPI would have to take advantage of that. Another thing that's kind of neat here is previous Raspberry Pis, you had to kind of try to figure out whether if someone handed it to you or you had a bunch of them, you didn't know which one had 4 gig or 8 gig or 2 gig or 1 gig. You had to try and figure it out. But here they have a little menu, little what do you call it, map on the board that tells you which one you have. You'll You'll notice there's a PCIe ribbon slot over here on the left, which is new for Raspberry Pi. It supports PCIe 2, so not the world's fastest, and you will need some type of a hat or add-on board to actually use it. Although apparently there's a secret unsupported PCIe 3 mode or something, which allows you to get more speed that Jeff Geerling, whose work on this stuff is fantastic, managed to enable. So maybe you'll be able to get more. You would use this for an external SSD. Instead of having previously, there was a camera slot and a official Raspberry Pi like video DSI slot. Here you've got like two ribbon cables over ribbon slots that you could have dual cameras if you want, Raspberry Pi cameras. You still, from the prior model, have two micro HDMI ports for your video out. It supports 4K 60 hertz on two monitors, although in my experience, I don't know if it will be super fast, but it will support, because I found things, I was running 4K on one monitor, and it was a little on the slow side for some things, particularly for YouTube. But that's another story I'll get to in a sec. But nevertheless, you can output to two monitors quite successfully, and supposedly also supports HDR, which wasn't supported before. Charges over USB-C, and you can see there's still a USB-C port in the lower left. It actually recommends a higher wattage USB power supply than previous. Previously, you would use a 5-volt 3-amp power adapter, and you still could do that. But if you do, the USB ports will have limited output, so they won't be able to power anything more than like a mouse and keyboard. They'll only do 600 milliamps out unless you use the recommended power supply, which it does 25 watts, that's 5 volts, 5 amps, because the CPU needs more amperage. So if you give it a lower, amount of amps, it's going to take it away from the peripherals. So the final thing that is, the final really standout thing that is new, I'm going to show you now in person, and that is dun dun dun. Can everybody see it? It's really tiny and blurry. But if you've been following Raspberry Pi for the 10 plus years it's been around, you know that it has never had an on-off button until now. That button there is the power button.
Hooray!
It is not a... So I am not as convinced as others that this was... You know what? It has its uses. So first thing I should say is it's not a... It is... You actually will be able to program it at some point because it is a soft momentary button. It is not a hard cutoff switch, which you don't want, because if you used it as a cutoff switch to turn off the power, then you could corrupt the SD card. Oh, and by the way, it uses a micro SD card. This is very important. It uses a micro SD card like the prior Raspberry Pis, but the reader is faster, leading to read and write speeds that can be, I think something like 3 times as much. So, and it boots a lot faster. It went from like 38-second boot to 18-second boot on the same card. So, but anyway, you don't want to just cut the power off, because that would corrupt, just like when you just cut the power off to PC and then it says, hey, you might have corrupted the disk, and it does a disk check or whatever. So your computer doesn't want you to just cut the power. This is a computer too. It doesn't want you to just cut the power. So if it's so when you first plug it into the wall, into power, it boots itself up. I'm not sure I actually like that. I think maybe you should have to turn it on. Then if it's on and in the operating system and you hit the button, right now it's programmed to bring up the shutdown menu on the screen, And I think if you hit it like a second time, then it will initiate shutdown. But if it's shut down, but still plugged in, it's still using some power. I think your PC is still using some power too, right? When it's shut down, but you haven't turned the power strip off. And that's when you can hit this button and it'll boot up again. So that's the power button for you. So obviously, I love Raspberry Pi. For those of you who haven't been, watching all of our prior Raspberry Pi coverage, this is a single board computer. This is awesome for doing things like emulation, like making a gaming arcade, or setting up a server in your house. And you could use it as a desktop computer, although albeit a somewhat slow one. It's still not, even with the higher end parts, it's still not fantastic at streaming video, for example. It's better. I was able, when running the screen at 1080p, to play a YouTube video that is 1080p 30 very smoothly and 1080p 60 pretty smoothly. But if I turn the resolution of the screen up, even leaving the resolution of the video the same, it's still it. And even if it was windowed and not taking up the whole screen, it was still jerky. If the screen was 4K or 2K, and I was playing a 1080p YouTube video. So, um, it, but it's still, good web browsing, good for productivity. I don't think a lot of people are going to buy this and say, like, this is going to be my main computer here, and I'm going to use it for my emailing and web surfing and work or whatever. I mean, you could do that, and maybe it's a low cost alternative for. But even there, like, even if were trying to give a whole bunch of people computers, you'd probably give them a $150 Chromebook if you were just trying to give people affordable computers. So really, the best use of this is for projects. Making robots, making all kinds of projects around the house for Maker Faire, and industrial companies use Raspberry Pi for all kinds of industrial projects. You hook them up and do clusters with them. Um, I haven't tested it yet, but I'm sure this is going to do a lot better on image recognition than the prior Pis because of the higher speed. So it's really cool. Big improvements in Raspberry Pi land. And I should note that it's not coming out till October 23rd. So the version of the OS that I tested on it, which is Raspberry Pi OS, but a version that's compatible with this, and they're still working on it and still working out some kinks. So the performance could even improve more between now and the release date. If you like Raspberry Pi at all, get one. If you are thinking of getting into maker stuff on a single board computer, definitely highly recommended. But make sure that you get the official fan, because you really can't. So you really can't run it without it, and you probably should get the official power supply too, so that you have five amps.
Gotcha. I mean, I've been following your coverage of it. I've been following Raspberry Pi's coverage of themselves. Uh, it's definitely a slick little machine, and a big improvement over its predecessor.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out exactly which things it does. Like, it's obviously does faster out of the benchmarks, boots faster, feels faster. But what my son and I were testing yesterday is emulators. We installed something called Dolphin Emulator on there to try to run, which runs Wii and N64 games. Performance was so on that. But I've seen other people who, mind you, it's not been optimized for this processor, for this new processor. So So we'll see. I mean, I'd like to see that. I would hope that it'll be able to do better emulation of things like the Wii. Maybe it would even be able to do a PS2 emulation, although there's not a good PS2 emulator that runs on Raspberry Pi OS right now. There's one that is abandoned and doesn't really work right now. So anyway, but there's definitely a lot of room for people to find really exciting use cases for this. And once more people get their hands on it, you're going to see more and more reasons why it's a big upgrade. The last major Raspberry Pi, the 4, came out in 2019. So people have been waiting for this a long time, and it wasn't expected until 2024. The CEO of Raspberry Pi told us and a lot of other people earlier this year that they wouldn't be launching this until 2024. So it really kind of came as a surprise when a couple of weeks ago they contacted us and said, we'll send you one under embargo for September 28th. And I think it surprised a lot of people in the community when it was announced.
Wow. It was 2019. Wow.
Spring of 2019. So it's been more than 4 years. The biggest gap between me, I mean, they've had other they've had their microcontroller board, the RP2040 came out since then. The Raspberry Pi Zero 2 came out, but that's just an upgrade to the Zero and the slow, not the top of the line, not the flagship. So the Raspberry Pi 400 at some point, the one that's built into the keyboard, which is basically a Raspberry Pi 4 built into the keyboard, came out. So they've had products come out, but their flagship model has not been refreshed since then.
Wow. I remember doing the episodes when the 4 was announced.
Right.
God, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Wow.
I know, but I know, but it was. And this opens as a journalist. This is great because it opens up a lot of doors for different things that have to change. You need the different version of the operating system, although that is backward compatible with older Pis. So you can take the card and put it in a different Pi. There's going to be a whole new ecosystem of coolers. There's going to be a whole new ecosystem of cases because the cases won't fit. The cases for the 4 won't fit on this. The ports are somewhat different location. So the fans obviously would have to change. There's going to be some new things to take advantage. There's going to be some new things to take advantage of. The dual cameras, probably the PCIe. So, there's going to be a lot to learn about what you can do with this.
Yeah, that makes sense. As my brother is fond of saying, it's a great time to be alive.
If you're for Raspberry Pi people, yes. Everything else, who knows?
Well, I imagine if stuff isn't up now, there's stuff now.
We have a lot of
more.
We have a lot of articles about it. I recommend that what you do is go to tomserver.com, and in the top nav there's a Raspberry Pi link, and that's a link to all of our Raspberry Pi coverage. We've had several articles on this. We've had our review, our story on overclocking. We put up a story yesterday on networking and how the networking performs. I'm working on one about the game performance, which has been, like I said, we're still trying to figure out how much better it is than the prior model. Ongoing.
It's always fun to have a new collection of things.
Yeah,
it's my favorite time.
Yep. Yeah, it's cool. So this has been really exciting, and we are excited to see what people do with it. And I'm trying to find things cool with it that other people haven't done yet.
Sure.
This is the early time. There are still people who have they've obviously sent to a bunch of alpha testers, some some major influencers, some reviewers. So there's people out there who have it and are writing about it, and we're all trying to, before the everyone else has gotten it, and we're trying to figure out like what are the other cool things you can do with it, what games does it run well that the other prior one didn't, things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's that mad dash time is something that I've always enjoyed.
Yep. Yeah, I need to do more dashing. I was too busy with other stuff today, but it's been dashing the last few days, trying to find more stuff, and we'll continue.
You've just been mad, no dashing.
Yes.
All right. Well, as always, Avram, I appreciate it. It's super cool. It's, getting all of the information kind of condensed makes me really excited about this new hardware. As you know, I've been looking to put my hands on a couple, and I'm glad I have held off a little bit because I definitely
Put
want
in
to
your check out our article on where to buy because you can pre-order one now. However,
Perfect.
this is a tip. This is a tip. So I think actually people who are subscribers to Raspberry Pi Magazine, the magazines that are owned by the Raspberry Pi Foundation, can get some kind of like advanced, like jump the line a little bit or something. But
Mm.
if not, if you're not, know that to buy, I recommend ordering the 4 GB over the 8. I haven't. They sent me an 8, and 8 is great, but apparently the 8s. What we're hearing from companies that are selling them is that they're not going to be able to fulfill orders for on the 8s for a long time.
Oh.
Like there's so many people ordered the 8, or stock of the 8 or whatever is lower. I don't know if it's lower, just more people ordered the 8, but they're saying that like I think the Pi Hut or Pi Shop said something about how if you order now, you won't get it till January or something. So
Okay.
we have an article on Tom's Hardware and where the places they're selling it. There aren't that many places selling Raspberry that are official Raspberry Pi sellers. Amazon is not. Newegg is not. You may find someone there selling it, but they're not an official seller. So Micro Center is though. So if you live near Micro Center, you could go there on the 23rd and try to get one. But aside from that, Pin Maroney, Pi Shop US, the Pi Hut, Adafruit, and I think SparkFun and a couple others are the majors. I recommend ordering the 4 because you'll get it sooner.
Got it. Makes sense. Appreciate the tip. And obviously appreciate all the information, and I look forward to what we talk about next time. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by EXA. EXA brings the latest technology to gamers, offering the most immersive products for the ultimate gaming experience. They've compiled the best elements of cutting-edge ENC tech, the latest in Bluetooth 5.0 and 7.1 surround, plus extra features into their headsets so everyone can enjoy a sensational gaming experience. And they've got headsets for Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Plus, they won't break the bank. Learn more about the headsets that are available and any current promotions by going to f5live.tv/exa. So you might be aware, if you've been paying attention, that there have been some strikes going on for the last couple of months. The Screen Actors Guild has had a strike against Hollywood for a couple of months. The Writers Guild of America has had a strike going on for a couple of weeks longer than SAG-AFTRA did. Together, it has pretty much brought Hollywood to its knees. No new writing, no new acting. Everything has been shut down because of it. Productions are backed up. But one industry that was unaffected was the video game industry until this week. SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild, has voted to strike against the video game studios, basically all of the major video game studios, meaning that there is no voice acting for video game development right now. It's an interesting move, and one obviously that is likely to work in Hollywood, but that I fear might go the other way. And we'll talk about what's going on in Hollywood a little later. But I fear that what they're doing with the video game industry might backfire, because so my current fear is that what they're going to do is they're going to try, for like indie games, or not necessarily indie games, but smaller production games, they might go use one of the text to voice AI services and discover that it works as well or better, financially for sure, as bringing in somebody that's in SAG-AFTRA. So I don't know. I might be overthinking it, but it feels like, so just to preface what's going to happen later in the show, there's a lot of talk about, how AI is going to affect the industry. My fear here is that this is going to go the other way. They're fighting over AI over there, and over here, I feel like maybe the AI voice stuff is going to almost usurp what they're up to.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because text to speech is pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not acting though,
Yeah.
but it's pretty good. I mean, you could say the same thing though about about text to text, right? Making it seems like convincing writing until you um, actually start to look at it in volume,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now the thing is though, with video games, you might if it's like an NPC that's talking to you or something, you might expect it to be robotic because it's a video game, right?
Sure.
Like, I mean, my expectations of video game are different than my expectations of a film or a
Sure.
TV show,
Sure.
uh,
You expect
even an animated one.
I would say we're, in this case we're talking voice actor to voice actor, so animation would be a good comparison.
Right,
You expect proper voice acting in Futurama, and
right,
probably in a Futurama video game. But,
right.
there's a lot of games that what can come out of some of these voice AIs. Like we had one on the show at CES this year. I think we had one in 2020 as well. That they've improved a lot over the last just 6 months. And if the video game companies feel like putting a little bit of money into the technology might help, it'll probably help.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know how to feel about this one because I
Mm-hmm.
don't like the AIs, replacing people.
Sure.
And I do think, like, I was watching a video. I would invite anybody, if anybody likes like MythBusters or MythBusters Junior or any of those things. I saw a video today from Adam Savage, who runs Tested now. It was on MythBusters about what he thinks of AI, and he was talking about AI artwork, and he was saying that like whenever he sees something, he knows that it has some type of a perspective, and something that's generated by an AI doesn't have perspective. doesn't
Yeah.
have a perspective. Um, so, and
That's an
that's what a lot
interesting
of
way of
people
looking
have.
at it.
I mean, that's the same thing that, like, the stochastic parrot. I mean, I've been saying in different ways, and the paper about AIs being a stochastic parrot that was so famous about is, hey, only human beings create meaning, not machines. So it can sound like a person, but it doesn't have a perspective, and therefore it's not. It doesn't. I mean, it's not real. But, that's acceptable for some things, I guess. And so, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think text to speech is bad. Um, I I'd like my like video game characters to have some personality to them, um, but it's hard to say. I mean, you can cert AIs are getting more and more convincing in terms of sounding like a person,
Hmm.
including with intonations and feelings and things like
Yeah.
that. So they don't actually have feelings. Everyone should know, because there's
What?
some people who don't seem to know that. Well, I mean, that's may sound like obvious to us, but I'm just saying I keep reading things where people seem to think that the AI, like, there was a whole we could have done a whole segment about the whole AI therapy thing this week. Did you see all of that? Where someone who
Oh no.
works for OpenAI. Did you see it? No. Someone who
No.
works for OpenAI, who's very prominent, said that they had used ChatGPT as a therapist and it was great. And then there were somebody else came on who also is like a big AI booster who was like, yeah, this is obviously I have to fix it a little bit, but this is great. Therapists are overpriced. People should be using chatbots instead. And
Oh.
and obviously, people who know anything about actual therapy are not do not think this is a good idea.
Of
So,
course not.
um, yeah. So, because again, it's kind of a degradation of what it means to be. A lot of this is a lot of the AI boosterism is really based on the idea that what it means to be human is not that meaningful and not that different than a machine. People are just machines, and therefore it's very you know anti-humanist in a way, because it's like, oh yeah, sure, a machine could say it, you could say it. What's the difference? And so this is the same thing. Oh, you could talk to a machine, you could talk to a person. They're going to listen to you, right? Now, I mean, my microwave oven will listen to me also. It even allows me to reflect on myself by looking at it and seeing my face in the door. So, I mean, I can even, I can set it for a 45-minute therapy session. It'll even beep for me when it's over. Like, uh, I mean, this is, obviously, people have beliefs about AI that are about large language. AI is such a broad term, as we said, large language models that are fantastical and the only benefit the people who are selling these products and making money off of them. That all of that being said, it's hard to say. If I were in the voice actor guild,
Hmm.
for I would probably approve of the strike, because like it's a very huge threat to my livelihood. But on the other hand, I don't know. There's something. I mean, I don't know how they handle it now, but in video games, like you, there's so many different possibilities, right? Like if it's for cutscenes, obviously we know that, okay, there's a certain number of lines, and like when Keanu Reeves as his character in Cyberpunk, like he probably just to sit there and read all those different lines.
Hmm.
But if you have NPCs that you're, I don't know, dealing with and want to have conversation with, and there may be sort of it could be quite open ended. Um, then how are you going to do it if you have to record every possible line?
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely benefits to human. There's benefits to AI. My fear is that the range for human voice actors is going to shrink. That's 2 different voice assistants that have responded to the show tonight.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Seriously. Yeah, my fear is that the range that they're going to be working on is going to shrink. That the bottom is going to come up, because
Yeah.
there's projects that aren't going to stop, and they're going to go, well, how do we solve it? Well, we can get one of the artists to come in and talk, or I can use Lovo, and just move on with your day.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting question. Is going to be like, if you're really famous, if you're a really famous voice actor, you are going to have a little bit more influence, right? If you're, let's say you're a movie actor and then you're coming in and doing voice for a game, then you might have more clout to say, like, you can't just clone me. But people who are sort of doing the other stuff, the less famous people, less famous names who are making a living doing this, they're going to be the ones who are really in trouble because they're not going to have a lot of clout. One of the things that is interesting, and we could have a whole segment on this, is whether you control the rights to your voice or not, because in Europe they have a concept of a right to publicity, right? You own your face, you own your voice, I think. But here, you could take a picture of someone on the street and sell it, as long as they're in a publicly visible, right? So, I could use, I guess, Tom Cruise as a voice actor if I went around and I followed him around the street and had him commenting on things, right? If I was interviewing him, or I just ran around, hey, Tom, would you be in my movie? No. Oh, great. I can have Tom say no in my movie now because I record, like, I don't know. I'm just kidding, Tom. But what I'm saying is, like, there's real question about whether artists will be able to stop their likeness and their voice from being used without their permission.
Right.
It may be, particularly if they've already been in a whole bunch of things. Maybe the studio that filmed their movies can now take samples of their voice from all the corpus of movies that they've been in, and then turn it into something, right? I mean, it's very problematic. There was did you see the Intel press conference, for the Intel Innovation press conference a couple of weeks ago?
No.
This also happened. This was 2 days before the Microsoft one. At the Intel conference, they had they were talking about how fast the new CPUs are, and they took a demo. They did a demo on stage of a text to music extension for, I think it's actually for Audacity. Like, it's some kind of plugin for the Audacity audio editor. And they asked it to write a song in the style of Taylor Swift. They gave it like a couple of minutes, and then it wrote a song in the style. I don't mean record a song in the style of Taylor Swift. Now, and when they played it, it was really weird because it sort of sounded like Taylor Swift, but it had no words. It was sort of like, right? Sort of, so like, it sounded a little bit.
It was Taylor Swift just doing the cadences.
Yes. I guess it was sort of like the Parents and Peanuts or something. Anyway.
Sure.
But I'm sure if they had given it a better, maybe if they'd given it a better prompt with like words, because they just gave it the world's simplest prompt, like, give me a Taylor Swift song, which is a problem with a lot of AI prompts. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to give you a really broad command. But what was really funny to me was, so they did the demo, right? And then Intel CEO Pat, so somebody was assisting him, whatever, on the stage. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger comes on, is there, and he's like, and the other guy's like, he puts it on and gives it a minute to process, and then he says, are you ready for this? And Pat and Gelsinger says, yeah, let's hear Taylor. And the other guy turns to him and it's like, no. The style of Taylor Swift. Like, don't say it's Taylor Swift. We could be in trouble. We could be sued. You know,
That's funny.
He didn't say we could be, but that was kind of the
Yeah.
implication. And I was just thinking, like, I wonder, like, that's pretty gutsy of Intel, one of the world's largest corporations, to do such an act on their demo stage in front of the world, with the world's most popular, or one of the world's most popular artists.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's hard for me to believe that Taylor Swift would endorsing this behavior, or gave her permission for this. So you know, it's part of the kind of very brazen attitude that a lot of companies, especially tech companies, have about how, sure, I can just take anything I want. Well, we talked about this in the last session about whether they have the right to learn, but it was just interesting to me that Intel, of all companies, they went there. Yeah. Like, Google won't do it. If you go to Google's music generator and you ask it to do something in the style of Taylor Swift, it won't.
Yeah,
they're afraid. I think they're afraid of the RIA suing them, but not Intel at their event.
So I actually think Google has an agreement with RIA because of their YouTube music program.
Oh, so in other words, because they have a relationship, they don't want to mess it up.
Correct. Yeah. I was part of a focus group about some AI generated stuff. I quoted you to the Google focus group, which I thought was fun. And that was one of the things that was talked about, is that, they've got an agreement with RIA for the YouTube music licensing stuff. And so therefore, there's a lot of stuff that Google's not doing in that realm.
Well, I think that companies that do this should be afraid.
Yeah, for sure.
Should be afraid of a lawsuit. They should be afraid of a lawsuit.
Because Sarah Silverman is going after Google.
Oh, there's more. OpenAI.
Yeah,
I don't think Google has been sued for that yet.
No,
I think kind of a little bit of a lawsuit.
But okay,
I think Bard has been sued a couple of times, but it's been more OpenAI because OpenAI is a bigger target right now.
Yeah.
I guess.
So
George R.R. Martin too.
Yeah. See, but I mean,
17 new artists just the other day.
So I'm going with Sarah Silverman because it's the wrong decade for her to have power, right?
Right.
She had a lot more clout in the industry in the early 2000s than she does today, and even she's saying, no, I think I have a claim here. I think I can make this work. So somebody like Taylor Swift, who has all of the clout in the industry, theoretically has the power to burn it down.
Yeah. Yep.
So
yep.
Just
I
a
mean,
note. While we were talking, just because I wanted to, I asked Windows Copilot to write me a full song about bananas in the style of Taylor Swift, and I have lyrics, and they're wonderful. Anyway.
Yeah. I retweeted yesterday or the day before. Somebody was boasting about how DALL-E 3 wrote them a Batman comic, and drew a Batman comic, and the frames of the Batman comic that they showed looked really, really good. But DC Comics, Warner Brothers, you should be paying attention. You should be paying attention.
Yeah.
So anyway,
the world is getting really interesting, and I think there's going to be a very strange clash that comes out of this SAG-AFTRA strike in the video game world. And we will definitely keep an eye on it. This This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus it actively blocks threats like worms, rogues, dialers, trojans, spyware, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. For a number of years, there have been accusations against Amazon, public, private, government, shoppers, sellers, about the way the company does business. Sellers have complained about fees. Sellers have complained about products being duplicated and then sold by Amazon for cheaper than the original. It was pretty clear that this was going to come to a head eventually, and this week seems to be that eventually. The Federal Trade Commission and the Attorneys General for 17 U.S. states have joined to file suit against Amazon for anti-competitive and monopolistic practices. In particular, the complaints come from the way the company shows products, the way they deal with paid results versus organic results is one of the top concerns. That ads aren't necessarily in the same category as what was searched for, things like that. Also, that the company prioritizes its own products over maybe something that's more relevant or in a category you've purchased before or something like that, which is a similar complaint that we've seen the FTC go after Google for showing YouTube results higher in video search for Google search results than, say, Vimeo, even if the Vimeo video is more relevant. And the FTC is going after them for the same thing. Also, the fees that are being charged, you have to pay whatever to have access to Prime shipping, and there's seller fees all in. There are some sellers that pay more than 50% of their revenue back to Amazon. And so the FTC says that the reason why all of this is happening and all of it is possible is because of Amazon's market position. So it's definitely a big claim. I feel like it's similar to the claims against Google and the claims against Microsoft in the 90s. Microsoft didn't really go anywhere of value. Certainly not what they were hoping to split the company up. Google is still in progress. I don't know what to expect here. Amazon has said what to expect here. They said expect higher prices, increased price of Prime, and slower shipping if the FTC wins. But I don't entirely know what they're going for. I don't know what the FTC's goal necessarily is here, right? Are they wanting to set Amazon's prices? Are they wanting oversight into it? Do they just want Amazon to pay a fine and then we move on? I don't know what the end goal of this is, Avram.
I don't know, but I mean, it is a circumstance where, who's really competing with Amazon? It's very hard to compete with Amazon.
Yeah.
And so if they're doing things behind the scenes that's like overcharging, overcharging their third party merchants or things like that, then then they need to be held accountable because like we don't have a lot of competition.
Sure.
what's happened, and I'm so guilty of using Amazon for stuff when I probably could use somebody else. And the reason is because I have a Prime subscription,
Mm-hmm.
and so I order things from Amazon and they arrive and I don't have to think about paying for shipping.
Right.
So if I have a choice to buy something from Amazon, um, or buy it from somewhere else and they're about the same price, or Amazon's just a little tiny bit more, and I have Prime shipping, then I'm going to buy it from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's you know that's the problem. It's not
Yeah.
like it's not now there are products that Amazon doesn't reliably sell,
Mm-hmm.
um, but if it's anything that they do reliably sell, I will get it through Amazon.
Yeah. And I made a joke earlier when we were talking about Panos going over to Amazon. Uh, you know, I won't say who it is, but anybody who knows the group can probably guess. We have a team member who has a lot of stuff show up to their house from Amazon almost daily, where it's become like the go-to. Um, and if that's the way you want to go, it fine. I mean, I today, just today, 4 or 5 boxes showed up from Amazon. I also use it, but I also, bought RAM for my mom's computer and I got it from Newegg.
I mean, if I needed it were competitively priced or cheaper, then maybe I get from it. But the thing is, with Amazon, it usually comes like within a day or two,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like, oh, I could go to the store, I could wait for this to come for a few days, or I could order it; it'll be there tomorrow at my front door. Like the convenience of the shipping
Right.
is
And
what really keeps me. And then you paid for it, right? You paid for Prime, so it's like I better
right,
use that.
right. And so when you think about that, the sellers are paying to have access to that logistics. I mean, I get it. I get that you would have to pay for access to that logistics system. I don't
Yeah.
know what they pay. I'm not an Amazon seller, although there's a possibility I will be soon. Um, so I'll have some firsthand knowledge. But right now I'm not. I've never done any Amazon selling. Obviously, we are affiliates, and you'll hear their name, with a
Yeah.
blue background here in a couple minutes. But um, yeah, I don't know what they're charging, and it would be hard for me to say whether or not it's too much. But the thing is, people are still there. It's not like everybody's going, I'm going to go over to Walmart Plus, which is still an option. Walmart Plus is a pretty, conceptually, a pretty severe competitor. It's less expensive. You get discounts on gas. You get, if the product is physically in a local store, they will Uber Eats it to your door. There's a pretty big competitive thing there. And if the sellers said, I don't think we're going to sell this over here anymore, eventually consumers would have to head that direction. The reason why people, including us, you and I, talking about it right now, the reason we use it is everything's there and it's convenient.
Yep.
You'd
Yep.
you'd
I mean, they've
almost
done a
have to
great job.
have you'd almost have to have a strike of sellers against Amazon, um, to make the convenience of it change. So there
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah.
There's your monopolistic power.
Right. I mean, well, the thing is, right? They now nobody's stopping you from buying stuff from Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's stopping you from buying stuff from other stores. But it's difficult. The convenience is hard to beat.
Yeah, for sure. And
So
yes, we're gonna in just a minute. The Amazon name's gonna come up with a blue background. But I took advantage of the Walmart Plus half price thing a couple months ago, whenever that was. Maybe it was right around Prime Day. I don't remember. In fact, I think it was. You know, $49, and basically it's the same thing, and it came with Paramount Plus because they had to compete with Prime Video somewhere. Um,
Ah,
uh, I that alone was a great deal, right? It's
yeah,
especially at the half price. I basically paid for a year of Paramount Plus, and I get free shipping from Walmart for free. And I know it comes Uber Eats, so I know the timetable on it. Because I'm not gonna say that we have delivered from Walmart through Uber Eats as part of a research program. But yeah, there it would be a truly competitive system if the sellers were there. But the sellers stay with Amazon, possibly because of their monopolistic power, possibly
yeah,
just because they do, because it's convenient, because maybe they don't know about Walmart Plus, or maybe, you know, the blue background is helping.
yeah. Maybe.
So it's all very interesting. I don't know what the suit's goal is. I don't know if they're trying to, you know, with Microsoft it was breaking up the company. With Google it's business practice change. I don't know what they're hoping for with Amazon. Well, with Google it's business practice change and a fine that they're after. It might be the same thing with Amazon. It might be more like Microsoft. Who knows
I
what?
don't think you're going to see. I don't think that the American government, no matter who's in charge, has the uh, you know the will to try to break up companies like we did with AT&T.
Hmm.
I just don't think. I don't see it happening to any company anytime
Yeah,
soon.
yeah. I'm pretty well with you, but that doesn't mean that that's not what that's not like one of the stated goals, right? With that gives them something to trade off. I don't know, because from what I could tell in the complaint, they talked about the problem but not exactly the solution. So we'll have to see
Right.
what happens with this suit and where it heads, to figure out exactly what they're looking for. With Google, we didn't find out basically until they got into the court system what the FTC was looking for. So we'll keep an eye on it and see where this is headed. My guess is it's probably business practice change and a penalty that they're looking for. That's what they did with Apple and the ebooks. It's what they're doing with Google. So I suspect that that's what they're looking for here. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We all know that you get free shipping on millions of products with Amazon Prime, but you get a whole lot more. Like free music with Amazon Prime Music, free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video, free games, and a free Twitch subscription to support the content creator of your choice with Amazon Prime Gaming, plus a whole lot more. We've got links to all of these features and some of our favorites, plus a 30-day free trial, all by going to f5live.tv/prime. So a couple things. First, if you're watching the whole show straight through, the irony we totally get. Second, we talked earlier in the show about the SAG-AFTRA strike against the video game industry. The companion to that is SAG-AFTRA's strike against Hollywood, and that comes as a companion and a pair with the Writers Guild of America's strike against Hollywood, which has been going on since May. It started before the SAG-AFTRA strike, and it brought a lot of productions to their knees. But anything that still had scripts could continue to film because the writers had already done their job. They continued to film until the Screen Actors Guild went on strike. Well, the WGA strike has ended. They have voted to end the strike and get back to work, which is great for entertainment and also mostly doesn't matter because the SAG-AFTRA strike is still on. So, what comes next now that the writers' strike is over? Because this isn't like 2008, because the actors are on strike as well. What comes next is scripts go back into production with the hope that the actors will come back at some point. So, productions where the scripts are pretty well done, like Stranger Things, not going to change much. Sure, the writers, have to make alterations as the production goes on because, things change, whatever. But the production's not going on because we still don't have the actors. What is going to come back is the late night comedy shows. The Tonight Show, The Late Show, Colbert, Fallon. They will be coming back. In fact, they are coming back tomorrow. John, what's his name? The British John, not Stewart, but he worked for Jon Stewart. Whatever. John Oliver. John Oliver actually
John Oliver
is coming back tonight. Because the strike ended a couple of days ago. He, from what I understand, is coming back tonight. The regular late night shows will be back tomorrow. And then the Daily Show will be back on the 16th with a string of guest hosts because Trevor Noah left. And so they're still doing guest hosts because they haven't announced a permanent replacement. Strike time would have been a great time to figure that out, but this is where we are. Those are allowed to come back because that falls under a different contract than the SAG-AFTRA. So technically, they could have come back without the writers. The Daily Show, Jon Stewart, famously during the 2008 writer's strike, came back without a script until the writer's strike ended. But in this case, they were in a real mix of issues because the writers were on strike, which kind of meant that they were going to have to act because they were going to have to improv. But that guild is also on strike, and so out of unity and solidarity, they decided to just shut down the shows. The problem is the shows have been shut down for months, 5 months now. I'll tell you, I don't know that most people have noticed. The ratings for the late night shows have been down significantly since COVID. I think it might be a struggle for them to come back. People have found other entertainment in the evenings. Got a bunch of streaming services. You can go watch that instead. So I think these guys are going to have a challenge coming back. But, you've got the longevity of The Tonight Show. Although, granted, there's some controversy over Jimmy Fallon over there. We'll see what happens long term over there. But I don't know. The ratings have been super down. Sure, a lot of it's because they've been reruns for months. But it's once a habit is changed, it can be hard to go back.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because at my house, my wife likes to leave on ABC like all the time. So we ended up watching like Jimmy Kimmel's come on a whole bunch of times, and it's like,
Sure.
oh, when was this from? And some of them are like from like 2015 or something. Like they're really old.
Oh my!
Or like some of them are 2016, 2017, like
Sure.
pre-pandemic, like
Okay.
stuff. And the part is, I kind of forget. They're like, oh yeah, so we're launching a new. So you're here to talk about your new show that's starting next week. I'm like, oh, someone's starting a new show next week. This strike. Oh no, that was 4 5 years ago. The show's canceled already. Um, so,
Huh?
um, but can they have actors on the shows as guests?
Um,
But they're not allowed to promote, right?
yeah, they're not allowed to promote.
So, how can they have
It's
them on as a guest?
yeah, it's still gonna be rough stuff. Um, because you've also got the issue. I don't know where it falls. You've got the issue of, um, like Fallon, right? He likes to play games with his guests. It's technically improv. It might fall under the SAG-AFTRA strike. I don't know what does and doesn't fall under there. I don't know what the shows are going to look like coming back. It might look like, what was it called? Strike Force 5, which was the podcast that the five of them have been doing during the dual strike, um, to support the WGA. WGA. It might be more like that. They might be each other's guests.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's so. Yeah, I mean, I don't see. I mean, I guess. I mean, they take long breaks during the summer, but it has been a really long time
Yeah.
since a lot of these aired. So yeah, that's a problem. But uh, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's an interesting question about whether that's a format that needs to continue,
Right.
um, or not. I guess we'll find out whether it's a format that needs to continue. So we'll see. But yes, the writers have to come back before this is meaningful. What I found interesting is that the I don't understand strikes. Like I don't understand how they work in the sense that like if you're on strike, do you? I guess what happens is you don't talk to the management every day and try to end it because like it sounds like for a long time, WGA and what do they call AMPTP, the
Mm-hmm.
uh, the
Yes.
studios just didn't talk to each other for several weeks.
Yep.
So there was no hope because they weren't even talking to each other uh, while stuff was being stopped. And similarly speaking, apparently the SAG-AFTRA and and the studios haven't been speaking to each other in a long time. And while they were negotiating this with WGA, they weren't even talking to SAG-AFTRA.
Mm-hmm.
I think they figured, oh, we'll deal with one and then the other.
Right.
But well, I don't know why they couldn't talk to both at the same time, in a different room or something. But uh,
So it's all about trying to get the upper hand and putting pressure. So oftentimes in this case, like the reason why nobody's talking is because of the unions. They're not coming to the table because they want to put pressure. But for me, the thing that's interesting is the studios are not the ones that are losing the biggest here. They've got reruns. They've got stuff. People are still subscribed to Paramount Plus, right? So Paramount's still
right,
making money off of their existing content. They're still running content that was already filmed.
yeah, well,
So
so
they're not putting as much pressure on the studios as they are on their writers, who many of whom were, taking odd jobs because it's not like the writer of a Tom Cruise movie gets paid the same as Tom Cruise.
right. Well, you have to look at it this way, though. Like, and I get what they were saying. Like if the what the AMPTP had proposed went through, then they would never have a job. So do you go
Yeah,
without work? Do you go without work for a few months on the hope that you can salvage a career, or
right.
do you give in? so that you can, you don't have a gap in income, but you have, but then you don't have a future. So, I guess that's what everybody's got to weigh, right? Like,
Yeah.
what's a reasonable compromise to feel like they're not just getting, like they're going to be able to keep working in the industry,
Yeah.
And what I found interesting about the agreement, though, and you'll forgive me for getting into my signature topic here of AI, but that was in, um, there was a lot of stuff in the agreement about AI, but
Hmm.
I found the loophole that they put in there for the studios to be quite gaping. So I don't know. Did you look at what they said about AI in the WGA writers agreement?
Yeah, pretty high level, but yeah.
Okay, so and by the way, we're still waiting to see how this you know um, we're still waiting to see how this shakes out for the actors, right?
Hmm.
But so AI is prohibited from writing or rewriting material. AI generated material won't be recognized as source material. Writers can use AI if they want to, as compliant with company policy, but companies can't require them to do so. AI generated materials presented to the writer must be disclosed as such. Doesn't mean that they can't present it to them, though. Uh, the but what they there's an interesting quote in it which I tweeted about, which seems to be quite you know I mean, I don't know. People say that it's not a big deal, but I think it's quite a big deal. Here, let me see if I can find the exact quote that they said. They said they said basically that, like, they reserve the right to to contest the use of their writers' materials as training data. They reserve the right, but they're not actually contesting it. Right. Okay. So the WGA reserves the right to assert that exploitation of writers' material to train AI is prohibited by MBA or other law. So so they reserve I don't know what MBA means. The bargaining agreement reserves, but they reserve the right to do it, but they're not going to do it. Like, what is that about? So if if the studios can then train the AIs on everything that they are writing for them, aren't they helping the studios for the next collective bargaining agreement and the next and the
Yeah.
next to where they're making it themselves more replaceable? Like, they're saying, hey, right now you can't force us to write or rewrite the material. Uh, it won't be considered source material. Uh, but that doesn't mean, I don't think that means that they can't use AI material. They just can't. If they wanted to film a movie that was written all by AI, I mean, are they required to use actual humans? The company was disclosed. So, like, it seems to me like the training data thing, like they're letting them take all the data, which will which they'll have as training data, which eventually could be used to replace them. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's a kind of a big gimme. I mean, my understanding is that they're waiting to. I think both sides are waiting to see whether this is considered fair use under the law.
Right. Yeah. It feels
But
like this. It feels like this is a stopgap. It's only a 3-year contract, and it definitely feels like it's a stopgap, particularly on that topic.
yeah, but they don't need to reserve the right. They could have just said, we don't allow you to train on any of our. They could have just asked for that in the contract. We do not allow you to train on anything that is written by our members or something like
Right.
that. I mean, granted, there would be some problems there because if they use any of the existing things to do writing for them, like GPT-4, it probably has been trained on stuff that their members have written, because we
Yeah.
know that it's taken things from like books 2 and books 3 and things like that. So I don't know, but I'm just saying they could have, was that a big sticking point for the studio that they want to be able to train?
Yes. Yes.
Well, then that
It
means
was a
that they're planning.
huge part.
Right. So does that mean that they're now planning to be like, oh, great, we won't make you work with AI materials for 3 years, but give us a few years and we won't need you at all.
Right.
We're going to train on your work, so so we don't need you. Like they really left the barn door open for their stuff, for their work to be taken. Um, I saw a tweet from Justine Bateman, Jason Bateman's sister, who used to be on Family Ties. She's like a big AI critic on Twitter, and she was saying something about how if you have your face scanned for like a VFX, you should make some kind of demand that as soon as they're done making the VFX, they delete the scan or some, something like that. Now we don't know about that because that could be the SAG-AFTRA contract, but
yeah,
that's there's because they have the scans of your face now, right? So
yep. It's all very interesting. We like we said earlier, we're talking about Raspberry Pi. For us, it's a great time to be alive. If you are a Hollywood screenwriter, however, it may not be, because it certainly looks like there are big parts of what's happening out there that are kind of the Wild West. And these strikes are simply trying to tame the sandstorms that are coming. We'll know more about what the future of media production looks like probably within a couple of weeks, when SAG-AFTRA deals with their contract negotiations, which hopefully will be shortly behind, though it could be a long time. Once that's done, we'll have a better idea of what the future is going to look like over here. Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We always appreciate our live viewers. If you didn't and would like to in the future, f5live.tv/join us on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can chat with us in the studio, give us your feedback, chat with each other, talk about what we're talking about. If you can't join us live, that is okay as well. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all the ways to watch, listen, and follow along. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, there's a lot of content coming, so be prepared for that. Also have some ideas for some exclusive content that will come only to the website, and we will be talking about that probably just after CES, because the next 100 days for me are a lot of CES stuff, prep stuff. So there's a lot of good changes coming. We're very excited about. We'll tell you more about that in the future. But for now, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you back next time. Ciao.